There is a moment when someone comes close enough that the air around you feels warmer, almost like your body senses their presence before your mind even has time to catch up. Something gentle starts pulling inside you. Soft, slow, almost invisible, yet strong enough to change your breath without a single touch. It's that quiet tension that wakes something deep within you. A feeling that doesn't need words to be understood. And I want to start here because many people misunderstand what it really means to be a woman of value. Too often, people mix being valuable with being loud, demanding, or difficult. But the truth is, a woman with real worth doesn't need to raise her voice, manipulate, or use guilt to gain respect. She knows her value is not something she must announce. It shows up every day through her choices, her presence, and the energy she carries. And now comes the difference you must clearly understand. A demand versus a standard. A demand says, you must do this or something will happen. A standard says, this is who I am and this is what I allow in my life. You feel the difference immediately. A demand tries to control someone else. It comes from fear and the need to push someone into a behavior. A standard comes from clarity and self-respect. It simply says, this is my energy. This is what matters to me. And if it doesn't match, she walks away without chaos. This is what separates women who feel drained and chase validation from women who move with quiet confidence. A woman of value doesn't change herself to please a man. She doesn't lower her expectations just to keep someone around. She lives honestly, knows who she is. And because of that, she speaks her truth without fear. How does a woman like that move through the world? When you meet her, you sense her strength instantly. She doesn't beg. She doesn't run after anyone. She doesn't shout to prove anything. She walks with calm, steady confidence. Picture this, she meets someone new. In the beginning, he is attentive, calls often, makes plans, shows interest. Then slowly things shift. He replies late, he becomes unclear, he pulls back. A woman without standards would panic, send many messages, ask what's wrong, wonder why he hasn't called. She would start chasing him, doubting herself, giving up her own boundaries just to keep him close. A woman of value would never do that. She simply says, hey, I noticed something has changed. If your interest is fading, that's okay. I appreciate honesty and clarity. I'm not interested in guessing games. And that's it. No drama, no chasing, just truth. She doesn't attack him, doesn't blame him, but she makes it clear she won't accept confusion or half effort. That is real strength. That is self-worth. Men feel this energy right away. Mature men respect it. Boys feel overwhelmed by it. And here's something important. Having standards does not mean being arrogant. It doesn't mean being too much or acting superior. Standards aren't about rejecting others. They're about protecting yourself. A woman with standards speaks with grace, not loudly, not rudely, but firmly. She doesn't need to insult or belittle anyone. She simply says, this matters to me. This is what I expect, and if it doesn't match, that's okay. But I will not shrink myself. This is what standards truly are. When a woman looks within and recognizes her value, she wakes up to who she is. She understands she doesn't have to beg for love, fight for attention, or shrink to be accepted. This awakening changes her voice, her choices, her energy, and her whole presence. Her aura speaks before she does. You've seen women like this. They walk into a room, and they don't need to say much. Their presence speaks first. You feel it instantly. She is not desperate. She doesn't stretch herself thin. She won't accept nonsense. She waits for real intention. And if a man approaches her the wrong way, he quickly realizes this is not someone you can play games with. Because a woman who values herself doesn't need to announce her worth. She lives it. And because she lives it, her words carry weight. When she says, I value commitment. I don't accept ghosting or on and off behavior. She is not trying to scare anyone. She is being honest. When she says, I want a real partnership, not something casual, she's not being too much. She's simply clear. Women like this inspire men to grow, not because they force them, but because their presence naturally brings out the best in others. But remember, confidence like this doesn't appear overnight. A woman of value wasn't born unshakable. She learned. She grew. She probably had times where she stayed too long, gave everything, and received very little in return. She knows what it feels like to lose herself in a relationship. She knows the pain of trying to fix someone who wasn't ready to be helped. But instead of becoming bitter, she used those experiences to become stronger and wiser. She learned that love should not steal her peace. She learned that compromise does not mean abandoning herself. And she realized that loyalty means nothing if it destroys her. This is what happens when a woman has no standards. She repeats the same patterns, attracts the same type of men, lives the same painful cycle, and thinks it is just bad luck. But once a woman wakes up and finally sees her worth, she breaks the cycle. If you have ever broken that cycle, write awake in the comments. She understands she is not a piece placed by fate. She has control over her choices, her reactions, and her boundaries. Now let's get to the heart of it. The language of a woman who knows her value is different. She doesn't speak from fear, she speaks from clarity. She doesn't ask, why don't you love me? Why didn't you call me? What did I do wrong? Those questions come from doubt. Instead, she says, I noticed a change. Honesty matters to me. If your interest has shifted, that's okay. I respect it, but I won't follow someone who doesn't want to stay. Do you feel the difference? That is emotional strength. That is self-worth in action. And here's the best part. Men who are serious, mature, and ready respect that kind of energy. They appreciate it. They value it. Because a woman with standards not only lifts herself, she lifts the connection too. Remember this always. A woman of value doesn't demand, she sets standards. She doesn't yell, she speaks with direction. She doesn't chase, she naturally attracts. Her words don't come from fear, but from inner trust. Her presence doesn't beg, it inspires. And do you know why this is so powerful? Not because she is perfect, but because she has done her inner work. She has faced her hurt and chosen self, respect instead of desperation. That is the real foundation. Because once a woman understands her worth is non-negotiable, everything changes. The way she talks to men, the relationships she accepts, and the way she carries herself. And trust me, the world feels that shift. And there's something else. For a woman of value, a man is not in first place. She is. This may surprise people because society tells women their worth is tied to being chosen married or partnered. But the truth is, a woman who values herself knows that no relationship can grow if she hasn't first built love, trust, and respect inside her own heart. She is whole, not missing anything. The problem is many try to find love outside before discovering it inside. They look for someone who completes them, who fills the empty spaces, who heals their wounds. But that only creates dependence on someone else's attention, praise, or presence. And that is the fastest way to lose yourself. A woman of value is different. She is already complete. She knows who she is and what she deserves. A man is a bonus, not a bandage. She is not searching for someone to save her. She does not need a man to define her identity. She already carries it. She knows she is not shaped by what happened to her, but by what she chooses to become. That is exactly how she thinks. Yes, she has felt pain. Yes, she has lived through heavy moments. But she does not let those experiences decide her future. She chooses to become wiser, stronger, and more grounded. She chooses peace instead of pressure. And one of her greatest strengths is inner peace. When a woman truly sees her worth, she moves with peace inside her. She is not desperate. She is not scattered. She does not try to force anything. She moves with steadiness and patience. And peace is powerful. A woman with inner peace cannot be easily shaken. She is not tricked by sweet words because she pays attention to actions. She cannot be bought with gifts or trips because her worth is not for sale. She does not need constant attention because she already glows from within. That is why a man feels her peace when he meets her. He knows right away he cannot play games with her. He understands he must show up with real intention. And for the right man, this is not scary, it is inspiring, because a man of value is naturally drawn to a woman who has mastered her peace. Her confidence is owned, not borrowed. The confidence of a woman of value does not come from outside. It is not built on likes, compliments, or attention. Her confidence rises from within. She can look at herself in the mirror and smile not because she has no flaws, but because she honors her journey. She knows what she has survived. She remembers the nights she cried quietly but still got up the next morning. She knows her scars, and instead of hiding them, she respects them. That is why her confidence is steady. It is real. That is what makes her strong. Not because she is perfect or never struggles, but because she refuses to accept anything less than the love she knows she deserves. When a woman truly values herself first, everything in her life shifts. The way she walks, the way she talks, the way she chooses, it all transforms. Men who cannot handle her energy fall away. The ones who can match her rise forward. That is the quiet force of self-respect. That is the root of true worth. And now let's go even deeper. We've already talked about the difference between demands and standards. We've seen how self-respect becomes the ground a valuable woman stands on. Now we reach something even more important. She doesn't only listen to a man's words. She watches his actions because she has learned something very clear. Words are easy. Anyone can say beautiful things. A man can say he loves you, call you beautiful, send long emotional messages, or whisper sweet promises. But words without matching actions mean nothing. They may sound nice, but they don't build anything real. Consistency over charm, that is her truth. A woman of value is not blinded by charm alone. Big gestures don't impress her if steady behavior is missing. She doesn't melt over a late night. I miss you. If he ignored her all day. Why? Because she learned that consistency is stronger than charm. Effort is stronger than excuses, and patterns speak louder than promises. She does not judge a man by what he says he will do, but by what he repeatedly does. If a man claims he is serious, that's fine. But she pays attention. Does he call when he says he will? Does he respect her time? Does he care about her values even when things get stressful? Because the truth is simple. A man's pattern is more honest than his excuses. And if his pattern stays the same, then his promises mean nothing. She understands this deeply. She knows anyone can talk like a king, but only a real man can behave like one. Effort instead of empty energy. Another thing she knows well. Attention is not the same as effort. A man can flirt all day and still not show any real intention. He can send emojis, playful messages, or compliments without ever giving time, planning, or consistency. That is surface energy, not real effort. A woman of value does not mix the two. She is not fooled by breadcrumbs. She is not impressed by the bare minimum. She knows how to tell the difference between distraction and true intention. And she never explains herself again and again. When she sees inconsistency, she doesn't chase, she doesn't lecture, and she doesn't send long paragraphs trying to make him understand. She says it once, clearly. I value consistency, and I've noticed a shift in your energy. That's it. No repeating, no convincing. Because she knows a man who respects her does not need begging. And a man who does not respect her is not worth her effort. Potential versus reality is a trap many women fall into. They fall in love with what a man could be. They imagine his potential and build an entire future in their mind based on it. But a woman of value does not do that. She does not measure a man by his potential, but by his reality. She looks at who he is today, not who he might become someday. She knows that waiting for someone to grow into their best self is a gamble. And she understands it is not her job to raise a man. She chooses responsibility over excuses. What matters most to her is how a man handles his mistakes. She does not look for perfection. She knows life can be messy. But the real question is this: does he take responsibility? Does he own his choices? Does he try to improve? Or does he hide behind excuses and repeat the same behavior over and over? In her eyes, that is what separates men from boys. Not charm, not status, not looks, character. Silent withdrawal, no drama. This is one of her strongest abilities. When a man's words and actions no longer match, she does not argue. She does not insult. She does not raise her voice. She simply pulls back her energy and steps away quietly. No chaos, no scenes, just standards. Because she knows her inner peace is worth far more than holding on to someone who brings confusion. Built, not bitter. A woman of value is not hardened by life. She is shaped by it. Every disappointment has made her wiser. Every ignored red flag has sharpened her awareness. Every heartbreak has strengthened her foundation. She is not hard to please. You just cannot play games with her. And trust me, men feel that instantly. Real men know they cannot win over a woman of value with lies or tricks. They cannot enter her life through dishonesty or manipulation. They must show up as their real selves. And instead of feeling threatened by her standards, the right men feel inspired by them. Her boundaries call a man into his strength, not through pressure, but through inspiration. A woman of value looks at patterns, not promises. She chooses consistency over charm. She understands the difference between attention and real effort. She builds her choices on reality, not dreams. She honors responsibility instead of excuses. And when someone's words do not match their actions, she steps back with calmness, not drama. Because she knows that in the end, words may sound beautiful, but actions reveal the truth. And she always chooses truth. Communication with strength. This is what sets her apart even more. When a woman truly understands her worth, her voice changes. She does not speak from fear or insecurity, but from calm clarity. An insecure woman might ask, "Where are you? Why didn't you call? Do you still love me? Am I enough?" These questions come from fear, and they create pressure and distance. A woman of value speaks differently. She says, "I noticed a shift. If your interest has changed, that's okay. I just want clarity." Calm, direct, honest, without fear. She does not react impulsively. She responds with maturity. Instead of saying, "You never care about me," she says, "I felt some distance. Let's talk." That is emotional maturity. She sets boundaries with grace. I value respect. If shouting is your way of solving conflict, I'm stepping away. We can talk again when we're calm. No drama, no insults, just clarity, and you can feel it. She does not raise her voice, she raises her presence. And that is the secret behind her communication. She has accepted herself, her flaws, her strengths, her pain, and her worth. That is why her words carry weight. Her communication invites real connection. She does not use jealousy, guilt, or fear to keep a man. She uses honesty, respect, and emotional maturity. Men who are genuine recognize this and value her deeply. A woman of value does not manipulate. She communicates. She does not act from fear. She acts from trust. She does not raise her voice. She raises her energy. She speaks from confidence, not insecurity. From maturity, not reaction. Her words do not create noise.